Gotcha. Yes, yes. Get into it. Get into it. Yes. We're back. Hi, lovelies. Welcome back to another installment of Storytime with Chris. As I always say, you don't have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your downtime, nap time, max, relax, and chillaxing time. In between time, mean time, scheme time, study time, break time, CP time. Anytime that you want to hear a highly animated voice bring you wonderful stories of magic, fantasy, science fiction, adventure, music, and many, many more in between. Hi. Let's go ahead and get started. Like I said last time, this is my favorite out of the 4 books of the Unicorn Chronicles. And the title of this wonderful story is called Song of the Wanderer. You all are going to be hearing me sing a lot during this. So I just ask that you bear with me. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 1. A meeting with the Queen. The Queen will see you now, human child. Kara scrambled to her feet. She had been sitting beneath a large quilpum tree, enjoying the spicy smell of its bark, while she watched the unicorns graze in the blue-green meadow ahead of her. The afternoon was warm, and she had been drifting at the edge of sleep. Now she was totally alert. Laughing Stream, the unicorn spoken to her, watched with an amused expression as the girl began brushing leaves and twigs from her pant legs. I wish I had some better clothes, Kara thought anxiously. I'm hardly dressed to visit a queen. Indeed, she'd been wearing the same jeans and t-shirt since she had first entered Luster a few weeks ago, and they were filthy. She put her hand to her long red hair and sighed. It was even worse than her clothes. Ready? Asked Laughing Stream. Kara nodded. Ready. Then follow me. Though Laughing Stream was trying to be serious, this was important business after all. The unicorn was not able to hide the hint of amusement in her voice. Kara would have been offended, except it hadn't taken her long after meeting Laughing Stream to realize that the unicorn found almost everything amusing. Her name had been well given. It was well given, considering that she's constantly amused by everything. There we go. I want y'all to be able to see. Oh yeah, that's good. Alright. Besides, the girl had no energy to spare on being offended. Her thoughts were all on what would happen when she saw the Queen. It was a conversation she had been eagerly awaiting since she had arrived at Summerhaven 3 days earlier. She had already seen the Queen a few times, but always in a very formal way. Today, at last, they were going to discuss how Kara would return to Earth to fetch Ivy Morris, the woman the unicorns knew as the Wanderer, but whom Kara thought only as Grandma. The last time Kara had seen her grandmother, she was ringing the bell in the tower of St. Christopher's Church to help open the gateway to Luster, the gateway through which Kara had fled with the amulet she now wore around her neck. From that moment, Kara had ached to know if her grandmother was safe, if she had survived that horrible night. So intent was Kara on her thoughts that she paid no attention to where she was walking and soon stumbled over a root. She managed to keep from crashing to the ground, but just barely. Laughing Stream snorted, then tried to hide her amusement. Unicorns rarely stumble. They came to a circle of trees that reminded her of weeping willows, save that their trunks and leaves both had a distinct bluish tone. Their long, slender branches swept the ground, creating a kind of lacy wall. Laughing Stream led the way through an arched opening in that wall. In the center of the trees shimmered a pool of crystal-clear water. A scattering of leaves, silver blue and shaped like the blades of spears, floated on its surface. Standing at the edge of the pool was Arabella Skydancer, the queen of the unicorns, sometimes known as the Old One. She was small, her shoulders no higher than Kara's. Her mane was like the foam on the crest of the long ninth wave, her spiral horn like a lance of pearl. She held herself with a sense of ancient dignity that Kara found almost overpowering. The Queen nodded to Kara and stared at her for a long moment. Finally, in a voice like soft summer wind, she said, "It is time for us to talk." Kara lowered her head and made a kind of curtsy. Only a few days earlier, she wouldn't have to be touching the Queen in order to understand her, but now that the dragon Firethroat had given her the gift of tongues, she could speak with ease to any of the intelligent creatures of Luster. The Queen laughed. A kind laugh, sweet and gentle. No need to be so formal with me, child. Come sit beside me. We will speak of what it needs to be done, and of things you need to know. Folding her slender legs, the queen settled to a bed of young ferns. She was very old, but her age showed only in the way she was beginning to fade. Sometimes she could see right through her, as if she was already part ghost. Yet now, lying on the ferns, she looked as much like a young foal as an ancient queen, except for her eyes. They were so deep and so old that looking into them made it hard to imagine anything had ever been young. Kara settled beside her. "Have you recovered from your adventures?" asked the queen. Kara thought before she answered. Her journey through Luster had been harrowing, but here at Summerhaven, safe and well-fed, her body had quickly regained its full strength. As for her heart, well, that was a different matter. It was only days ago that she had discovered that the man who had chased her and her grandmother, Morris, into St. Christopher's had been her own father. She still stung from the knowledge that he was a hunter, one of the ancient clans sworn to stalk and kill the unicorns. Even worse, through her father, she herself was descended directly from the strange woman known as Beloved, the greatest enemy the unicorns had ever known. She didn't know how to discuss these things with the queen. They were painful and embarrassing and frightening given her family history on her father's side. It sometimes surprised her that the queen and the other unicorns would talk to her at all. Yet her grandmother had been a great friend of the unicorns. Such a good friend, according to her father, that she'd stolen Kara away, kidnapped her, rather than let her fall into the hands of the hunters. But if that was so, why had her grandmother never spoken of it? Why hadn't she prepared her for all this? Kara loved her grandmother and longed to see her safe, but she also had some hard questions to ask her. "I'm not sure I'll ever recover," whispered Kara. "Each wound has its own time for healing," replied the queen. "The wounds of the heart are much deeper than those of the flesh." Kara nodded gravely. "Now let me speak to you of Luster," said the queen. "If you are going to journey across our world in order to fetch the Wanderer, there are things you should understand." Kara looked at her in surprise. "I thought I would use the amulet to return home." As she spoke, her hand crept to her throat, and the chain that held the amulet her grandmother had given her, the amulet that had opened the way for her leap into Luster. "Certainly the amulet will carry you between Luster and Earth," said the queen softly. "But sometimes you make the crossing from the right place. You could still end up very far from your grandmother." Kara felt suddenly weary. "Does that mean I have to go all the way back to where I was when I first got here?" "Alas, if only it were that simple. But ours is an oddly patchwork world, Kara. We touch old Earth in a hodgepodge of places, connections that change with the passing of the seasons. That's why the first stage of your journey will be to the home of the Geomancer." "The Geomancer? She's a kind of... an earth magician. Her magic is that of soil and stone, of water and rock. She will be able to work out the best place for you to cross back to our own world." Is it far to where she lives?" asked Kara nervously. This was turning out to be more complicated than she had expected. "Only 2 or 3 days, and you won't be traveling alone. We will choose a small glory of unicorns to travel with you. Only 3, alas. I thought long and hard about this, whether it would be better to send a large group and seek safety in numbers, or a small group and hope for safety in stealth. I finally decided that a small glory would be wisest. After all, the Delvers are already aware of you, and a large group would be more apt to attract their attention." Kara shuddered at the mention of the Delvers. The vicious goblin-like creatures were sworn enemies of the unicorns. Her fear of them was intensified by the fact that one had attacked her shortly after she first arrived in Luster. "I have asked Moonheart to lead the group," continued the queen. "That's nice," said Kara, despite the fact that the idea made her a little nervous. Moonheart was one of the queen's nephews, and though he had been kind enough in the few days since she had met him, she found him distant and aloof. She suspected this might be partly because the very first unicorn she had met in Luster, and the one to whom she had really given her heart, was his own nephew, Lightfoot. For some reason Kara had not been able to discover, Moonheart considered the young unicorn a disgrace to the family. Whatever the reason, Lightfoot and his big, lumbering friend, the Dibblethumb, had quietly slipped away from their group just before they arrived at Summerhaven. Kara missed them both desperately. They had been her first friends in Luster, had helped her, taught her, and guided her on her journey to find the Queen. Well, at least Thomas the Tinker and the Scourgeon were still with her. She would see them later after her audience with the Queen. Suddenly, Kara realized that she had let her attention wander, an old problem she had gotten her in plenty of trouble in school. "I know Moonheart may seem a little formal," the Queen was saying, "but he is experienced in the ways of the forest and the mountain, and as brave as any unicorn you could find in all of Luster." "It would be an honor to travel with him," said Kara quickly, feeling she had been terribly ungrateful to question the Queen's choice. "You're getting spoiled," she told herself. "Not long ago, the idea of seeing a unicorn would have made you enough to think that your greatest dream had come true. Now you're getting choosy about which ones you want to travel with?" "You will need him and the others," said the Queen. "Luster is beautiful, but it is not without its dangers. Remember, our world is not developed in the ways that your world is. You will not find wide roads and solid bridges to cross this wild country, and along the way you find strange and ancient creatures, beings you thought no more than myths or legends." Kara grinned. "You mean like unicorns?" The Queen laughed. A sound that made Kara think of distant wind chimes. "Like unicorns. But not only unicorns, child. We were the ones who opened the way with the help of an old magician named Bellenmore. But once the gates were open, others came through as well. As you know, we have dragons here. Dragons and other creatures too. Some of them kindly, others more unpredictable." "Tell me more about the gates," said Kara. The Queen paused for a moment as if the subject was painful. "7 gates link Luster to Earth," she said at last. "Stepping through any of them will carry you from one world to the other. I have kept them open in the hope that the day might come when we could finally return to Earth, or at least visit our old home more freely. Alas, I fear it was a fool's hope." When Kara started to object, the Queen shook her head. "Oh, yes, child. Even a queen can be a fool. Perhaps more fool than most. Many of my court feel it is time to close the gates, and not merely for safety's sake. They want to bring full end to our old connection. My heart speaks against this, but the truth is, the choice may be beyond me anyway." "Why?" The Queen looked away, almost as if she were gazing into another world. "The ancient magic that formed the gates seems to be fading. It is possible they will vanish of their own accord sometime in the near future." She shook her head. "That will be a loss for both worlds. Anyway, for now, and for as long as the gates are open, each entrance to Luster is closely guarded at all times, and their location on Earth is a very deep secret, as it must be to keep the hunters from passing through." Kara felt herself blush at the mention of the hunters from whom she was descended. The Queen, as if sensing her discomfort, said softly, "I care much less about your roots than about how you have chosen to grow, child. You have well demonstrated both your loyalty and your courage. I am satisfied." Kara felt a hot lump of sorrow in her chest when she thought of the moment in Firethroat's cave, when she had been forced to choose between her father and the unicorns. But he had been going to open a new gate, so he had lead the hunters into Luster, where they would kill... She cut off the thought. She had made her choice. She stood with the unicorns, yet the memory of her meeting with her father raised another question, almost as painful. Where was her mother? According to her father, she was waiting to see Kara again. The thought pierced her with longing, but was it true? Again, she had let her attention wander. With a start, she realized the Queen was speaking. "Tonight, we will have a ceremony at which you will pledge yourself to the quest. Tomorrow, your journey will begin." Arabella's sky dancer paused, and Kara could sense a deep sorrow in her. "May that journey be successful. An old wound separates your grandmother and myself, and I would like to heal it. Bring the Wanderer back to me, Kara. Bring her back, because I dare not finish fading until you do." "Finish?" asked Kara nervously. I am old, said the queen, and the sudden weariness in her voice seemed to crush Kara's bones. Older than I should be. I yearn to leave this life behind and move on to what is next. But I have promises to keep and wounds to heal, and I cannot go until I do. So bring your grandmother back, child, for her sake. And for mine, so I can rest at last. Kara felt a coldness in her heart. Are you saying that if I bring my grandmother back? She couldn't bring herself to finish the sentence. The thought was too horrible, but she didn't really need to ask the question. Arabella Skydancer had made her meaning clear. She was waiting for the Wanderer to return so she could die. And that is where we will end for today. I thank you all so much for joining me for Storytime. And yes, this is going to be a different volume in this series of books. It's going to be a bit more heartbreaking and devastating in the later books, but this is the prelude to that, of the more serious nature of Kara's journey through Luster and protecting the unicorns and facing the clan of the hunters and the evil sorceress, Beloved. We'll see you next time, lovelies. Bye-bye.